Okay, so for those of you asking about the National 5 graphics task, I'm going to pull it back slightly and give you a little bit of an introduction, because obviously with the task it jumps into design elements and principles. Some of them you may know about from previous years, some of them you might not. So I'm just going to quickly load up one of the SQA documents now. The course specification on the SQA National 5 Graphic Communications site. That's where you're going to get all of the everything that is basically included in the course, both in the question paper and the final exam, or the question paper and the assignment. Sorry. So that is going to give us a table of everything we need to know. In this table, there are a number of design elements and principles and desktop publishing terms, of which we're going to go into prior to the summer break. So here we go. This is a really good document to have a look at, just in terms of trying to understand what's in the course and what's not. So we've got geometric forms, partial cuts, all these kind of things that we will go into after summer. And here we go here. So specifically in the question paper, knowledge and understanding of the types of promotional graphics, informational graphics, including graphs and charts and their associated roles. Interpretation and identification of creative techniques used for effective promotional graphics. So that's effectively what we're starting with. So you need to know at National 5 level alignment, dominance, unity, depth, contrast, use of line, the use of colour, and all those different sub areas of colour, I suppose you could say. So those are the ones we're going to go into in detail. Now, the ones that I have kind of asked you to look at in that PowerPoint are alignment, contrast, depth, and also balance, which I don't think is listed there right now, but is essential that you need to know. So these are all the things that a designer will these are all kind of tools that a designer will have at their disposal, so that they can create really good graphics essentially. So the ones that I have asked you to look at, well, in fact, before we look at those, I'll just read through this. Now, I've suggested that it could be an hour to an hour and a half that you're spending on this. You might spend less, you might spend a little bit more. It would be good if I get a wee bit of feedback on that, actually, just to see how much time you actually had to spend on this task. I think once you maybe get to grips with what to do in the task, then it might be a wee bit easier and you might be able to fly through it. If some of these design elements and principles are a little bit harder to understand than others, then it might take you a wee bit longer, but let me know how you get on. So it says, as part of our course, we have to have knowledge and understanding of promotional graphics. So that'd be advertising material. This could be as simple as posters, leaflets, and billboards, but remember, promotional graphics include material such as websites, packaging, and even mobile phone apps. So there's a wide variety. So to start with this, we're going to first build our knowledge of key design elements and principles and identify them in professionally produced publications. So you're gaining knowledge of 4 of them across this week, across these 2 days, and then you're going to find evidence of them in websites. Next week, we're going to understand why they are used and the effect they have. So today, or this week, is just about identifying them and finding evidence of them. Next week, it's going to be understanding the effect that they have and why the designer's chosen to do that, basically. So consider the following 4 design elements and principles and find examples of each of them being used in any of the following websites. I'm looking for 2 occasions where each of the 4 design elements and principles are being used. So your assignment is going to be 8 PowerPoint slides in total. So you're going to have 2 evidencing alignment, 2 evidencing balance, 2 evidencing contrast, and then 2 evidencing depth as well. Now, the list of websites that I've put up here, they're just a random assortment of quite kind of global companies that have heavily visited websites. So it's really important for these websites and for these companies to have something that's going to stand out and something that's easy to follow as well. So subconsciously or consciously, the designer will have used these design elements and principles to make sure that these websites are winners, basically. Okay, so I'm not going to click on any of these. I'm just going to go through the design elements and principles and then maybe do an example at the end. So the first one being alignment. There's 2 different types of alignment. There's one where the objects are aligned. So that could be text boxes, images, shapes. As you can see in PowerPoint slides, alignment is already set basically. So in the PowerPoint design that I've chosen here, the top text box is aligned with the bottom kind of bullet point box. So that's a very common way that designers will use to just make sure that everything is neat. Okay, and it's that neatness that makes things easy to read and quick to read as well. If something it takes too long to read or it takes too long to understand, then we as humans, we just switch off. So if it's quick to understand, then that's what we want. That's what designers want. We also have alignment on the right hand side as well, where we have the red box at the top right aligned perfectly along that kind of right invisible guideline, and the two bottom red boxes are also aligned along their bottom edge. So that's object alignment. The other alignment we also have is text alignment, and that is where text is aligned along a guideline. So it might be on the left, the right, it might be in the center. The final type of text alignment we have is fully justified, and that is where the text effectively goes from the left hand side, hard on the left hand side, to hard on the right hand side, and there's no kind of jigsaw jagged edge that you get in something that is right aligned, which is this red box down at the bottom left, or left aligned, which is this blue box at the top left. And websites, all different publications, they'll use different text alignment based on where the text might be or what they're trying to emphasize. So you'll probably get websites with more than one different type of text alignment. Second one is balance. Now there's effectively two different types of balance. You've got symmetrical balance and asymmetric balance. Generally, an asymmetric balance is best because it creates contrast on both sides and a more eye-catching display. I say best because it depends on the publication. If you think about something like a food menu in a Spanish restaurant, then the food, or what's actually on the menu, the starters, the main courses, etc., that's what needs to take center stage. So it's natural for that information to be slap bang in the middle and be centrally aligned. If we think about something like a magazine article, where the text is important and there's going to be a lot of it, then it's going to kind of work its way around the images. So rather than the images being slap bang in the middle, like a symmetrically aligned document, the images within a magazine article are usually asymmetric, so they're at the side, okay, and they're not equal on both sides. But every website will have a kind of symmetrical or asymmetric balance. These aren't that strict. You can have symmetrical layouts with a slight asymmetric link somewhere. Usually because websites are quite big publications and quite long, you may have to do quite a lot of scrolling, then they're probably going to be asymmetric, but some of them might be symmetrical. So that's one to kind of be careful of. Third one being contrast. Contrast is quite an easy one to spot because there's lots of different ways that you can spot contrast. Contrasts by using opposites to create visual impact, and there are many ways of achieving contrast in a layout. So here we've got contrast of colour. As you might know from kind of junior years or even art, contrasting colours are opposites on the colour wheel. So where we have purple and yellow, they're opposites on the colour wheel, and therefore they're contrasting colours. Other contrasting colours would be, I suppose you could have orange and blue, they're opposites on the colour wheel. Red and green are opposites in the colour wheel as well. You could also get away with saying that red and blue are opposites in the colour wheel because of hot and cold, but strictly speaking it's opposites on the colour wheel. Shape also provides contrast, so where there's a circular feature or a circle and a square feature, quite an angled shape, then they are contrasting because they're so different. Text styles or font styles, where you've got what we call serif and sans serif. I won't go into too much detail right now, but it's effectively where you've got fonts that are modern looking and without any of the flicks, and where you've got fonts with the flicks. Okay, so you might evidence in the website that you choose a contrast of font styles, where you might see some text that is without flicks and some text that's with flicks. Moving on, you've also got contrast of upper and lowercase, where we've got lowercase and uppercase somewhere else. Again, that's quite a good indication there's contrast and two opposing elements. And then finally, you've got contrast of vertical and horizontal as well. That's quite a common one also. And then finally, we've got depth. Depth is a really important one, and it can work incredibly well if it's used well. It effectively occurs when objects are layered on top of each other. This can be text on top of a shape, text on top of an image on top of a color bar, etc., etc. This can include drop shadows on text and shapes, and that's quite a common one to have evidence drop shadows, where there's, as you can see from that kind of word text, there's a black shadow behind it. This shape as well has got a shadow around it to make it seem as if it's kind of jumping off the page. And as I'm sure you'll understand, designers like to use this because they like to see that things are kind of jumping out towards the reader, and the reader will usually, their eyes will go towards them first. So that's your kind of 4. So that's what you're trying to find evidence of inside the website. So I'll quickly load up one. Let's go for the top one, 4.co.uk. And then we'll see if we can find any of them. Just randomly, I'll choose, I'll go with balance. I'll go with balance, and I'll try and see whether it's a symmetrical or asymmetric balance. Now, interestingly, as you can see, it's changing slightly. There's an image in the middle, which could be adding to whether something's symmetrical or asymmetric. The kind of cookies message that comes up here is completely symmetrical because of the text alignment. The first image that appeared, which I'll try and get back to, that is, the text is symmetrical. The layout of the cars is symmetrical, even though each car is not perfectly symmetrical. I would say that this is a more symmetrical layout. Obviously, you've got Ford up at the top left and different tabs in the top right, but that's where there's kind of elements of asymmetry. But in the grand scheme of things, it's looking to be symmetrical. And as you can see from the layout of the cars that are on offer, the text alignment as well is a really big indicator that something is symmetrical. So essentially, you're looking for 8 slides where you're looking to find evidence of each of them twice, if that makes sense. So what I would do is I would screenshot this here, if I can remember what the keyboard shortcut is. I think it's, oh, might not be that one. Anyway, you're screenshotting some of these, and then you're dropping them into either a new PowerPoint or this PowerPoint just at the end, and then you're going to upload this as your assignment. So this is my example here. Okay, and I've highlighted alignment, so this would be one of my 8 slides. So I'd have to find one other example of alignment, 2 examples of contrast, 2 examples of balance, and 2 examples of depth. Hope that helps. If it doesn't, please get back in touch, and I'll do my best to try and help you as much as possible.